Ladies, gentlemen, and raiders of all arcs, Arc Raiders has had an atmospheric rise up through the crud up to the tippity top of the gaming zeitgeist in late 2025. It has an unbelievable amount of attention on it right now, and for some very deserved reasons, as the game is just sort of creating these incredibly unique situations and moments between players, even just these split-second decisions of whether to be friendly with other people or not, whether to trust someone for no other reason than because you want to, is such a rare feeling in gaming, and it creates such emotional moments that really just keep you invested. That said, there's tons of stuff going on around the game and outside of the actual gameplay itself, so today we're going to take another step back and talk about what is happening around Arc Raiders instead of literally just inside of the game itself. That said, to start off with, let's talk about any information or updates planned from what we've been told about by developers over the last few days. Recently, there has been quite an upsurge in people requesting duo queues be added to the game, and for clarity, the game currently prioritizes putting solo players together with solo players and groups together with groups, but it didn't differentiate between duos and trios, which led to inherently unfair situations when you go into groups of two into the game if you wanted to play together with just one person without having to find a third. The general responses were nothing to say at this moment, and we are analyzing feedback, and the long and short is the only negative of adding in a duo queue filtering system would be if one day the player base of the game gets small enough that this negatively affects queue times, but that isn't a problem right now because the game is absolutely massive, and I think they really need to just capitalize on right now specifically, and clearly they agree because just this morning they put out this notice that duo queues were actually silently enabled in the game already recently and tested, and they're happy enough that the system is working to make that public knowledge. So great news for groups of two. Not only are duo queues now a thing in Arc Raiders, but they actually have been already for the last couple of days. On top of this, we were told that the store prices for cosmetics are actually going to go down because of player feedback, and I think this is one of the only times ever I have heard of players complaining about store cosmetic prices in a game and the devs actually listening and agreeing to change them. We won't know the exact change results until tomorrow on shop reset day, but even the fact that they are willing to compromise even a bit here is a really promising sign in my opinion. Then the third bit of information was about Raider decks and a warning that while the initial Raider deck is free, there will be premium Raider decks for the game, and making a clear distinction that gameplay specific items will only be in the free Raider decks, so everyone can access them, and premium Raider decks will be exclusively for cosmetics, so there won't be any pay to win, which is good to hear. Great stuff all around, really. After that then, quick look at the roadmap for the game. We know there is a November update planned with a whole load of stuff in it. This includes the new Stella Montis map that's been on the launch screen but disabled since release, as well as new arc, new weapons, new quests. It's quite a sizable update that we know is coming pretty soon, but with today already being November 12th and us having no actual solid info on when this will be dropping, it brings to question, well, when is this going to happen? When do we get this? So let's see if we can have a little bit of speculation here with the emphasis on the word speculation, as we do have very minimal information to work from. That said, I'd say we're probably in the home stretch here. We're probably pretty close, aside from the obvious that it basically has to be within the next 2 weeks. We had a good balance patch last week, and presumably this update will also require a client patch to be delivered too. Client patches need time to pass certification for consoles, which is a whole process they have to go through, which means that the update patch has to be set in stone a little bit ahead of when it's released. In this situation, that means it also needs to have the changes from any other game updates they do before that point, by which I mean the update may have been mostly made before 1.1 was released, but then they still also have to work the 1.1 changes into the update patch now as well. And same with any other client patches that might happen between now and when the actual update is too. And those two things combined means that you can't really be making too many major changes too close before a big update drops. Past that, while we've only had one client patch so far, generally speaking, games will have a set day that they do client patches, like one day of the week that is the same day every week. Hotfixes are a bit more freeform, but full client patches usually stick to a schedule. Our one patch so far has been on a Thursday, so most likely from what we know so far, the patch day for Arc Raiders will be Thursdays, but it is a little bit hard to confirm that for sure until we at least have one more. To say it could be this Thursday, like literally literally tomorrow, but they haven't had any announcements or hype building or stuff like that, so I really do doubt that, because they even did hype building for Electromagnetic Storm and the Hidden Bunker, which were a much smaller event, just literally map events being released. So in my mind, it's most likely either Thursday, November 20th, so a week away, or Thursday the 27th, which is 2 weeks away. And to be even more specific, I think the 20th is probably the most likely out of those as well, because we also know that there is a December update fully planned for the game. Logically, they will want to space out these updates. They don't want them to be literally back to back. They wouldn't release the November update in the last week of November, and then the December update in the first week of December. And with December being Christmas and holidays of various kinds on the back end, they won't want to be in the office at the end of the month guaranteed, which means that that update will not happen at the end of that month. And assuming they want monthly updates within the same time frame more or less each month, I would say a pretty safe bet is that we're looking at the third week of the month, which would be next week for this first update, and my specific guess is the 20th, so we'll see how that shakes out, but I really enjoyed pattern recognition type stuff, which is realistically all that guessing patch timing is. That said, Embark as a whole is probably quite overwhelmed right now. The success of this game is absolutely wild. I don't think anyone could have predicted it to be quite as popular as it is, quite as big as it has actually managed to get. The official social channels for the game announced a new concurrent player record. Most numbers that we can publicly find are limited to one platform, but of course the developers have internal numbers on the game that can show them everything, and apparently we reached over 700,000 concurrent players this past weekend, which is absolutely wild. Like, that's not 700,000 people who own the game, that's 700,000 playing at the exact same time on the same servers together. The actual number of people who own the game is going to be significantly higher than that. That said, for a bit more data to look at here as well, here are the Steam charts. This shows stats for Steam as a platform specifically, which is for PC players. Peak players this past weekend on Steam was 462,000 compared to 354,000 on the first weekend, so a pretty massive rise over the course of the first week. And usually when that happens, it is a result of a game being spread to new people who didn't intend on trying it through word of mouth from their friends or acquaintances saying that they're enjoying it and talking about it and trying to get them into it, because without that, usually a game's peak is the first weekend after release very consistently. So to me, this shows that Arc Raiders is growing, that people are giving it a chance who otherwise aren't very interested in this genre. It might not even be at its peak player count yet, and that might instead happen, for example, when the big November update hits in the next couple of weeks, which is sort of wild in itself. As well, Steam Charge estimates somewhere in the realm of 3 million game copies sold through Steam alone. So if we take the fact that Steam Concurrent was about 2/3 of the amount of people as the total concurrent that they shared on socials, we can take that to assume that 3 million Steam copies are estimated to be around 2/3 of the overall sales, which means that we can estimate total game units sold at around 4.5 million in the first week and a half, which is a crazy amount of people buying and playing this wonderful game. That said, it's also received very high review ratings across the board, with one major notable exception that does deserve some discussion. This is the Eurogamer review for Arc Raiders, where they give it 2 stars out of 5, and the vast majority of the reason for this is 2 controversial letters: AI. Obviously, there is AI in Arc Raiders. I mean, that's what the Arc themselves are. What are they if not AI? But on a more serious note, there are 2 types of AI that were used in the creation of Arc Raiders as a game, and it is worth being aware of. But I think it's a much more nuanced discussion than Eurogamer portrayed here inside of their review. The first type is machine learning animation AI for the actual movements of the Arc, things like specifically how they react when they walk into terrain. All of that is a form of generative AI, but it's also a form of AI that has been used in video games for decades at this point. It is not new, it is not unusual, it is part of the industry. It's just that AI as a term has become such a generalized boogeyman that things the industry has been doing for a very long time are now being called out just because of that term itself. The other AI use in this game is for the emote lines and the voice changers, the player voice options that you can use in the game to literally change your actual voice input and make it come out as a different sound. These are created by hiring real voice actors to essentially create an AI text-to-speech model off of their voice. Usually when people talk about AI on the internet, it's stuff like image generators that learn off of artists' work without their permission. But this is totally different as a situation, and the nuance there is important. The people here whose voices were used to create these systems, they signed up for it. They chose to do this. They were hired for this purpose explicitly. They consented to being used to train the voice model, and they were paid. There's no real moral ambiguity to be had here as far as I'm concerned. There is, of course, some some argument that if this becomes the standard in the video game industry, it will harm voice actor work in the future, as there will be less voice work to go around if AI voice models become the standard. But I'm not a fortune teller. I can't see the future. I can only look at what we've got right now and say that if the voice actors sign off on it, if they agreed to it, if they are properly paid for it, then in my opinion, personally, there's no problem with it at all. Finally, then, I want to just take a moment and throw my hat in the ring on the whole PvP versus PvE discussion and all that stuff. I've seen people saying everyone should always be friendly, never shoot each other. I've seen people saying you should never trust anyone, shoot everyone on sight. I've seen people say that solo raids are for friendly and group raids are for PvP, and I've seen people say that day raids should be exclusively friendly and night raids be PvP focused, with some even saying that they want the developers to make this a forced part of the game, which in my opinion is so unbelievably overkill. It's so over the top, and it misses out on the points of the game, honestly. This game is an extraction shooter. It is PvPvE. Having players be friendly only feels as cool as it does because they don't have to be. Because they have the choice that at any given moment, someone could just change their mind. They could shoot you when you aren't looking, and you have that experience, you have that memory forever. You are both putting trust into each other as people who have never met in real life and might never interact with each other again after this raid. And you live through that experience no matter how it goes, for better or for worse. It's such an interesting, unique, social thing to have in a game. There's nothing wrong with PvP, there's nothing wrong with being friendly, but if you make it impossible to do either one, then the game just would not be the same game. Sure, some people might have more fun, other people would not. I don't judge individual players for playing however they think is fun. I think the fact that you have the choice means that you can make those choices however you want. But I think that asking for Embark to make full-on game changes that prohibit how other people want to play is just a bit short-sighted and selfish. I think things work great as they are right now. Perfectly, honestly. The system relies on the decisions of each individual player to shape their own experience, and that makes it such a very unique social thing to have inside of the gaming sphere in general. Finally, just one last thing worth mentioning then, which is an exploit currently going on. This is a thing slowly making the rounds on the internet and people are finding out about it, but there is a way to kill the queen during the Harvester event super easily, quickly, and solo, all by yourself. The only thing you need is a blaze grenade trap, and if you can throw it on her, like midsection, like you see here, then shoot the trap to trigger it, the fire it creates will actually damage the inner core of the queen itself, which has super low health, and this kills her unbelievably quickly, like less than 30 seconds from first damage to dead using this, which is, of course, nuts. This will be fixed, but for now it exists, and people will be taking advantage of it while it's there, so be aware of it, and whether you want to take part in that yourself or not is entirely up to you. That just about does it for today then, everyone. A roundup of all the news surrounding Arc Raiders over the last few days, some new milestones, some important discussion topics, and of course just a good bit of speculation on when we could get the upcoming update too. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and leave your own thoughts on any of this down in the comments below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.